Welcome to the Behind the Barbell Network. I am Brian.
I'm Christian.
And you might know us as the Bev Boys, but today we're going to talk a little bit about something else, very on par with some of our other small episodes that we've done before, more towards into the actual fitness and sports performance. The topic of discussion today is a max necessary? A 1RM, a 3RM, a 10RM. I'm gonna direct this towards you. I treat this as an interview. Obviously, we have Pot or Pablo with us.
The barking beagle bandit.
You may have seen him in some Bev Boys episodes, but he's just hanging out with us here on the couch in studio. No headset, no mic, but he's being a good boy.
Yep.
So where are you currently at when it comes to 1RMs?
So my thought process on them has definitely changed a lot since I came to Elon. I think like a lot of people that get into performance or just like lifting weights in general, you know, people like to max out. It's cool to see people lift heavy ass weight one time, just hyping people up, whether it's, you know, usually just squat, bench, deadlift, clean, your main movements like that. We definitely did them. We would have like whole testing days at where I went to school, and that was kind of what I was taught. But I've really gotten away. I haven't tested 1RMs at all since I've came to Elon. So it was a very stark contrast from when I was at Simpson. And I don't even think either approach is really a bad thing. It's just kind of, can you justify it either way? Is it safe? Is it properly executed? So, and I also think it depends a lot on the type of resources you're dealing with, as far as like, I think one of the big factors for us here at Elon is we have Team Builder.
Yeah.
And it gives you that kind of estimated 1RM auto-generated through the training. And, you know, the more I've been here, the more I've just kind of integrated into the thought process of, you know, testing is training, training is testing. You don't need a whole testing day to tell you, you know, what your 1RM is, etc. I do think there's pros to knowing about what your one rep max is. So you can go, if you want to go off percentages, that's definitely the way to go. But personally, I don't know if it's really worth it for most people. I mean, obviously, unless you're like a power lifter or an Olympic lifter, then that's your actual sport.
Yeah. To
doing an actual true 1 rep max, I would rather find that through training, or maybe, you know, 3 to 5 RM, or just giving someone maybe, you know, 85 to 90% of their predicted 1 rep max and having them do kind of an AMRAP set.
Yeah.
I think that's the way that I like it. Again, obviously the 1 rep max is going to be probably the most accurate because it's truly getting like the true 1RM. But I think for training purposes and safety purposes, like having that max set where I give you 90% and you do as many reps as you can, it's good enough for me. I know people hate to say like, oh, good enough, but like it's good enough for me. And then if you want to work, it depends on the team too. With a team like, I mean, it depends on what your programming style. Are you using percentages for most of your like compound movements? Are you using RPE? Are you using reps in reserve? Are we talking a dumbbell lift? Are we talking a barbell lift? We were kind of having this conversation in the office the other day. Percentage-wise, using percentages for dumbbells, kind of sketchy just because it's tough to get accurate. It's better to kind of let the athletes
feel it out
and tell them about what you want. Like, it's like a dumbbell row. I don't need to tell you 75% of your 1RM dumbbell row. Like, load that shit up. It's not going to tax you a ton.
Yeah.
Do a heavy ass dumbbell row with good form. But as far as like bench and stuff, or like front squat, split squat, trap bar, I do like percentages a little bit more, especially for like athletes that maybe are a little bit less, younger training age and don't know how to just strain as much in the weight room, because it gives them a definite number. There's no guesswork. I don't have to come over there and try to, pull teeth to tell you to go up 10 pounds. It's just, you do this, then if that looks good, looks like you can add a little bit more. Got some input, barking beagle bandit. Then you can handle it there. But I think it's really nice to have Team Builder. It sounds like I'm freaking just sucking off Team Builder, but but you can do that. You can do that with anything. You can kind of have like a predicted 1RM calculator if you go like reps. Obviously, the more reps it is, like if you go off like a 20 rep max, it's a little bit less accurate to get a 1RM. But like I said,
An 8?
Like an 8, yeah.
3.5 or an 8.
Yeah, like I like that a lot better. It is now, like I said, we would have testing days where I went to school, and I definitely think there is some benefit to those and some merit. One, they're just kind of fun. Like we would kind of extrapolate it out to throughout a training week where like at the end of the semester or like the end of the year, certain times, obviously it differed for different teams. You're not going to do, a team, you're not going to have a max out right at the end of their season. You're going to wait until they've kind of built up to it. But we would have like we would do like our top speed testing early in the week because that was what we cared about the most. We would do our jumps. More so we would kind of test the jumps throughout the semester just on the jump pad. But then we would have like bench in the middle of the week and then like weighted chin up in the middle of the week and then end with like trap bar or split squat and like a 10-yard dash or something. Now I'm a little bit more of a fan of the way it is really cool to see that, like just doing it's kind of like gives you that combine effect, like it's like your NFL combine for like for a college athlete. So I think that is kind of cool, and it's just a fun thing that kids look forward to. But I mean, we don't really ever I haven't at least had like a testing day at Elon. We use the jump mat, we use the lasers to various extents throughout pretty much the whole training year for a lot of our teams.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have this one day and one chance to PR, because that's the other thing. Like, what if you're killing it all the whole semester and you get to that testing week and then you get sick or you just feel like shit or you just have an off day? You're kind of screwed. So yeah. I'm not saying that's what everyone does, but I think it's good to kind of have testing throughout your training so you don't have to take, and then you're not taking, an entire day or an entire week, because, when you do a testing day, everyone does that one movement and then that's it, because it just takes long. People are building up, people are hyping people up, which I mean, like I said, definitely has benefits to it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I, just like you, when I was younger, definitely thought there was like a lot of merit. It was fun to do. Some of those things, you could see the big numbers, especially like when you're the athlete yourself. You're like, yes, I can hit a big one. This is going to be sick. I feel like the big man on campus type of deal. But I've moved past that, especially now, like you mentioned. There's so many different ways to load it up. And even like throughout my year, I don't load everything the same way. I do like percentages, especially for like younger kids or young training age athletes, just for the aspect of I'm going to put it down. You just need to lift the weight because you need to learn how to strain for some sorts. But with RPE, reps in reserve, or even like VBT units, I'm like just I need to drive the intent, and then whatever that is, we'll just add weight to it. And I've gotten to the point of like integrating the testing, so I don't ever have like a max test week or anything like that. But in like the fall training, like for track athletes, I might work up to a heavy single. Yeah. But I might work up to a heavy single at 90%, or like 1 RIR for whatever it is, maybe at 3 to 4 reps or 5 reps. So it's pretty near max effort, but it's not necessarily I'm going to ask you to PR, because whatever I'm going to put in there anyway, I'm probably going to pull a 90% of to grab a training max, or 85%.
Right. That's the other thing.
Since for me, it's not necessarily about, like, strength is such a thing. Like, if you build power, you will build strength, because power is the force that you apply, or the strength that you're applying essentially in a period of time. So if I can accelerate the bar really fast with a heavy weight, it's more about the stimulus that I'm getting less than the number. And I think, unfortunately, testing days have pigeonholed the industry for sports performance, also known as strength and conditioning. People try to emphasize the strength aspect of it, and you become like a one silo approach where they worry too much about strength, and you have really strong athletes, but you don't have good athletes. Can they jump high? Can they move well? Can they sprint? Do they have a great ability to change direction? Can they get into deep ranges of motion? And the more I've been around the industry and seen a lot, even in just like general fitness, there's a lot of, I put a lot of weight on the bar, but I didn't hit depth. So it's not really the movement. And you're building that week out, right, to where it's like an entire week. And this is, if it works for you guys and you guys can do it well, by all means do it. But a lot of the times you lose a week of training because
That's the thing that, like, the training week is, or the testing week is sick, but it could have been a training week. So
Yeah.
And it depends on this, like, when people, especially at the college level, when they go home for breaks, yeah, you send them a program, but, like,
How much are they adhering to it?
yeah, like, it's just kind of how it is. I'm not going to get mad at that. That's just kind of the game we play. So, like, you got to kind of take every week you can get if you can
Exactly.
get it, you know?
So for me, it's like maybe you run a cycle of 5-3-1. You have that AMRAP set in there, but you're
Right.
operating at around 85 to 90% of your training max. So maybe we reset a new training max just because I worked you up to like a 1+ set. And some people get it, and I guess that's kind of a cop out because it's like that's kind of like a testing week, but it's not the focus, right?
Yeah.
If we hit something new and we do well, cool. But having multiple metrics to test, like for me, like vertical jump, a split stance vertical and approach, a med ball throw for miles per hour, the RSI, stuff like that, where it's going to be more closely related to the sport. That's what I'm worried about improving. Everything else is a means to support that end. So I'm not necessarily concerned if a ton of max strength goes up, especially as the training age goes up and they move from something like the foundation card to like an advanced or advanced plus, to where it's like now it has to look more specific to the sport. And that's not me wrapping 95 bands up and then being like, all right, do a block start. But it's like, is what we're measuring closely related to the same impact of what your sport requires to happen? I do think there's some merit to doing heavy work. I believe that, but I don't think that should be the focus and primary driver of your entire program, unless, like you said, you're a powerlifter, Olympic weightlifter,
Yeah.
where
Or
that's what your sport is.
Right, and it depends on obviously the team. Track is like the weight room is like a very like integral part of track because it's like you can definitely see the transfer. If what you're doing is working, the times are going to go down. If it's not,
It's the sport of training.
exactly like the sport is training. Versus like obviously we know that it's good to do resistance training for obviously just like general health, but other sports as well. But it's a little tougher to see like we did this and it helped this on the field. Like there's just so much in between that to really say for certain. We probably know that it's helping if you're doing like a somewhat intelligent program and you're driving some outputs up. I do think I'm thinking like field sports because I work with soccer and lacrosse. For me, like we said, strength can't be the end all be all, but I think you also got to be careful about not going the complete opposite. Like I just want speed, vertical jump and sprint time is all I care about, and then they're weak and they're more vulnerable to injury. With with soccer, I think especially for field sports, speed obviously is very important. Like if I can glide past you on the soccer field or just like run by you on the lacrosse field, that's going to help me score more goals.
Yeah.
Agility especially too. But I think to a certain point, especially with athletes in those sports, they have a little bit less of a training age. So driving strength numbers up is going to help support that. So we talk about, whether you're, we're big on vertical integration. It's kind of in varying,
degrees.
And I was talking with this with Matt the other day. It seems like sometimes people get into the vertical integration plan, but then they never really because you're supposed to kind of turn the knobs up and down, and people get so fixated on just
One of those knobs.
Yes, or like you're keeping stuff constant. Like there should be times of the year where you're kind of emphasizing
The other aspect.
Yeah, and it's like people will shit on like block periodization, which like.
But you really focus on one or the other.
But really, it's vertical integration doesn't have to be that much different. Like you emphasize something, and then you just touch on other stuff to kind of maintain. Because it's hard, unless you're just a true beginner, to improve at everything all at the same time for an extended period of time. So,
I definitely agree with what you're saying in that aspect. So, like, for anyone that's not familiar, like, block periodization is you will focus on one athletic quality, whether that's strength, power, speed, and that's your focus, and then you'll adjust in the next 2 or 3 week block after that. In vertical integration, all of those biomotor and biomechanical qualities are always present to varying degrees, like Christian said, in the aspect of, we're always going to work on speed. We're always going to work on aerobic threshold or endurance. We're always going to have strength work. We're always going to have power work. However, during this time of the year, this is what I'm going to be focusing on. While I still touch on everything to make sure that my residuals stay up, I might be focusing on strength, I might be focusing on speed, or I might be focusing on, aerobic endurance, whether that be in the weight room, on the field, whatever it is. But I'm not just neglecting anything else.
Right. But you also can't just turn all the knobs up to 10 all the time. There's got to be, you have primary focus, secondary, tertiary. Okay, I'm cool with just having these things kind of be on maintenance, so to say.
Yeah, you have 10, right?
Yes.
You can distribute 10 however you please during that time.
Yes, and block is 10 and then zeros, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And versus like maybe vertical integration is
6, 3, 2,
Yes,
0, whatever
exactly.
it might be. But the ability to audit and kind of go through and do that. So when it comes to like strength testing, while I don't think it's necessary and you can accomplish the same goal, if it works for that program and you can do it properly to where you're also successful, I think it's a good thing to do if that's what works for you. I personally don't do it because even if I were to take over football completely, like we don't strength test necessarily. We'll work up to, if we're doing like an APRE like we did in January, where you're going to hit a heavy 3, you might end up hitting a PR, you might not. It's totally fine. The idea is that we just build some volume and we build some general strength capacity at that percent, and then we kind of work into just that threshold within your sets and reps and percentages. It's not necessarily a testing week, but we're going to accomplish the same goal while getting the full capacity of training done, which is what I really like, because you don't lose the week, you don't lose the time, and you can still improve that strength number.
Right. It's just a little bit tougher to see. I mean, the one thing that's good about probably 1RMs is, if you did 300 6 months ago and then you did 315, there's a clear improvement from that versus like, I did 290 for 3 and I just hit 295 for 4. It's like, I don't know. Obviously, it's still like clear that you got stronger, but like it's just more simple. We like to simplify things in our brain. But
it's clear cut versus like having to sift through the numbers.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in a career path where a lot of it, most people don't understand what you do, or at least to what extent. Simplifying as much as possible allows them to be like, oh, that's where he's moving the needle per se. Right. Where it's like you said, like if I hit 290 for 3, but I hit 285 for 5 this time, like is that better? Like that's where I think the coach has to come in and do the job as the coach to calculate that and say, this is our improvement. You have to be able to show that what you're doing, and as long as you can justify what's in your program, in my opinion, it'll be good. What I do isn't going to work necessarily for you, and what you do on a daily basis. I've definitely take some ideas from you for sure, especially like with the VBT on there. I like that, so I took it. Being able to distinguish, if you blindly copy a program, you will not only copy over the pros, but you're going to copy those cons. You're going to get the faults with it. You have to take it and moderate it to what you need for your specific context. And for me, that's in the form of taking out any max strength testing.
Never fucking max out. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's. I think it depends, because when I think of exercises you max out on, it's usually squat, bench, deadlift. We did split squat where I went to school as well. It's obviously like there's something that gets like overlooked, like teaching people, and you should really do this at the beginning of like when you get a team, like teaching them how to spot and like how to set up. One thing that
don't spot a front squat.
Yes, don't. Front squat, don't need to spot. Deadlift, don't need to spot, obviously.
A clean, do not spot.
Yes, but how to spot like a bench, a split squat, if you're going to do a back squat.
How to properly do it or properly fail as well.
Yes, teaching people how to fail is another good one, which is why, like, obviously, depending on, like, a trap bar, it's nice. You just drop it.
Yep.
Which is why, we're in the process of trying to get some open trap bars so we can do some heavy-ass split squats with that, which would be nice because then if you bail, it's not, bar on the back. You just let go.
Yep.
Because that is one thing that I was a little surprised when we came here, because we were big on where I went to school about, like, people would set the catches to about, where they
just above parallel, so they can hit their depth, but if they fail, it's right there.
Like, most of the time it isn't a problem. Like, front squat doesn't really matter, but like when we were getting those, I'm thinking last summer when we were getting real heavy on split squats for like those sets of like 2 to 4, I was like, I've got to make sure I'm locked in on this spot. This guy doesn't just tear his whole body apart. But that's another.
There's a little groan.
Yeah. I know, right? Set up your, it's all
Set
about
up your
weight.
spotter arms.
Yeah, come on.
Pablo
man.
endorses that.
We need to get the mono lifts. Or have you seen
I love those.
the loops?
Yeah.
That, like you unrack it and then if you drop it, it just like lands on
The loop.
Yeah.
It's like a safety strap.
Yeah.
Versus, yeah.
Those are kind of nice. But yeah, that's
We talked a lot, and I don't know if we clear cut an answer, but hopefully this gives you a little information on our ideas with, true testing or testing weeks or strength testing. It can serve a purpose. I don't think it's absolutely necessary in any way, shape, or form. But if you like it and you can safely do it, I think there's a high risk with a moderate reward, which for me that makes me out. But if you can safely do it and get it done, I think then you can warrant it in your program.
yeah. Well, hope you guys enjoyed this little more educational topic than you're probably used to. Hopefully you got something a little bit out of it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video if you did get something out of it and enjoy it. Comment down below any other topics, sports performance, strength and conditioning related that you would like us to cover, or your opinions on 1RM testing. We're definitely open to different outlooks. Don't want to just be, obviously we have similar outlooks here, so we can kind of just sound like we're
In an echo chamber?
Yeah, just an echo chamber, which we kind of are. But it's good to, obviously we've both had different outlooks before, and we've kind of changed our approach, and we might change our approach again. So sound off down in the comments below, and yeah,
Argue with us.
honestly, yeah, let's have a little debate. I'm all for it. So
Absolutely. But like French said, like the video, subscribe to us. That way you get those post notifications when we do make our new posts. And hop on to bevboys.com. That'll have some of our gear from the Bev Boys podcast, as well as might soon put on a Beagle Bandit t-shirt in there. And then we'll have some Behind the Barbell Network gear on there as well. But thank you. We'll see you in the next one. And
peace.